It is often said that the roof of the law covers us all. It applies to everyone, but it also protects everyone. Unfortunately, the concept, justice for all, for many of us, is a far cry from reality.
I had a credit card charge where I was double billed.
And the manager told me the exact same thing. You know, Miss Collins, you either pay 15% or you pay all.
When I was out of town one time, one of the tenants accidentally burned a house down. A few years later, I got a letter from the owner's insurance company. Dear Mr. Whitworth, we're suing you for $100,000 for burning down the house.
Someone had hacked into my site. They'd gone out there and was using my particular server to sell bogus stuff through an online auction site under my name.
All of a sudden, I'm getting a letter from collections telling me that I owe them $200.
Ladies and gentlemen, your host for this unique and dynamic show is the former four-term Attorney General of the great state of Mississippi, a man who started the movie The Insider, playing himself with Russell Crowe. My friend and your advocate, Attorney General Mike Moore.
I'm Mike Moore. Over the course of today's program, we'll discover how the promise of justice for all has been broken and what we can do to mend it. The phrases lawsuit and legal situation tend to evoke thoughts of serious crimes, the high-profile celebrity cases that are constantly flooding our airwaves, or large corporations fighting for ownership. I was personally part of one of these high-profile cases not too long ago. In 1994, as Attorney General of my state of Mississippi, I filed the first case against the tobacco industries of this country. I'll never forget the fact I showed up at the first time we had a court hearing, and there were 68 lawyers on the other side for the tobacco industry, and we had 3 lawyers on our side. So I know what it feels like to go into court against all odds. Even the governor of my state filed a lawsuit with the tobacco companies against me to stop me. Well, determination and a lot of help from all the attorneys general in this country resulted in about a $250 billion settlement for all the states. I tell you that story to tell you how important it is for us to be here today talking about prepaid legal services, because it's important that people have access to the courts, whether it's a big case or your case that may not be so big, but is just as important to you.
I have 20 acres of land, and the state wanted to widen the road, and they wanted to buy an acre of my land, and they made me an offer that I could refuse. And after going back and forth and countering several times, they just didn't want to budge. So I called the provider law firm, and I said, I know they can take it through eminent domain, but aren't they supposed to pay me fair market value? And they said, yes, they are. And I said, what are my options? They said, you can accept it, you can counter it, or you can reject it. Well, since I'd countered already, I said, what happens if I reject it? And they said, they will sue you for the land. Well, as a prepaid legal member, I knew that I had protection, and I said, you know, jury, my peers will decide, and they said, that's right. And I said, that's great. So I hung up the phone, I called the state, and I said, I think I'd like for you to sue me. And they didn't know what to do, you know, and after several phone calls from superiors and whatever, they agreed to pay the fair market price, which paid for my membership for a very, very long time with one phone call to Prepaid Legal.
A legal situation doesn't always mean you're going to court. The truth is, things happen every day in our lives which could be classified as legal events. Lease agreements, large purchases, needing a living will, and having an appliance warranty denied are just a few examples. We've been conditioned by a society rich in lawsuits and legal expenses to accept minor injustices. It's not right, but that's life for most of us.
Well, a fundamental underpinning in our nation is the justice system. It's the framework that really holds everything together. And it's not going to work unless all citizens feel that they have access to it. That's the only way our country will prosper and will survive, really. So all groups need to be afforded a way to have access to the justice system. And if they don't, why, the country will be weakened because of it. Prepaid legal, through this mechanism that has been developed, is they're making legal representation possible for persons of moderate means.
We know we are treated unfairly. We know we're taken advantage of at times, but most of us see access to the legal system like an exclusive country club, something reserved for a fortunate group of wealthy people. We have families to provide for and financial responsibilities. Real life doesn't allow for the type of financial commitment justice requires, so we simply let it go. Is there really no way to access the promise of justice for all?
A letter from the law firm got my money back.
Within 30 days, everything's fixed. I didn't have to worry about anything. They did everything for me.
And they wrote one letter for me on my behalf, and in less than 10 days, the whole balance was cleared and my credit was good, and I'm a happy customer.
They went down to the county courthouse for 2 pretrial hearings, got the entire case dismissed.
They saved me $380 by a simple letter, and I could never have gotten that myself.
What gave these people the courage and the financial ability to find justice? These are testimonials received from real people facing real-life issues. The testimonials were given by people who own a life events legal plan from Prepaid Legal Services Incorporated. Prepaid Legal is a New York Stock Exchange company that has been providing legal service plans for over 30 years. Their unique life events legal plan and identity theft shield protection were developed in response to the growing concerns we've already established.
It's a calculation we make someday. We said, someday we'll be sick, and someday we'll need a filling, and someday our kids will wreck our car, or maybe we'll do it ourselves, and someday we may be sued, or someday we may need to sue somebody that has hurt us. And so what Harland did is he said, people believe in putting a few dollars down on a regular basis so that they're covered when things happen, and he was able to aggregate a lot of that together, and good lawyers who would work at a good rate because of the broad coverage that they were able to get. And I think it's been a great American success story.
You need good, affordable legal representation. And Harland Stonecipher, who was just a visionary, saw this for all communities. And it certainly has accented the African-American community to help. You got people who have bad records, people who have trouble can now call Prepaid Legal and get good representation and deal with charges that aren't supposed to be on their side, for realtors who have messed you around, for dry cleaners who have overcharged you or lost your clothes. All of these items which are necessary to the quality of life, Prepaid Legal has an answer for. And I think that's the beauty of it. So when I studied Prepaid Legal and looked at it and saw the worth of it, I said, this is good. This is something that the National Black Chamber of Commerce should support. And we certainly do.
We've discovered that most people who do not have access to legal counsel will simply accept their circumstances and go on. When the credit card company charges unfair fees, when your cell phone service provider is unreasonable, or when an invoice is higher than quoted, what can we do but pay and go on? You see, it's not about whether you absolutely have to have an attorney in some cases. It's about whether having an attorney could make a difference by empowering you to make better decisions, resolve conflicts, and have peace of mind. Over the past several years, as a result of an introduction by my good friend Mike Turpin, I've gotten to know and now consider a friend and business associate, Mr. Harland Stonecipher, the founder and CEO of the New York Stock Exchange listed company Prepaid Legal Services Incorporated.
Where did it all begin? How did you come up with this idea?
Well, Mike, thank you for being here. But, it really started, the idea, the concept, back in 1969 with an automobile accident that I had. And it was an accident that wasn't my fault. In fact, the Highway Patrol gave the ticket to that other party. But a little bit later, that other party wound up suing me. So when I'm talking to people today and somebody says to me, well, I don't know where I'll ever need a lawyer because I'm not going to do anything wrong, I say, well, what does that have to do with it? I didn't do anything wrong, but I wound up getting sued. And I had automobile insurance. My car was totaled out, so it replaced my car. I had medical insurance that paid for my doctor bills and the time that I spent in the hospital, and even had quite a bit of life insurance because that's what I was doing, if I hadn't made it. So I had all the things that people normally have and that we normally are trying to plan for and take care of ahead of time. But the one thing I didn't have was anything to take care of the legal expenses, my legal bills. And I can tell you, Mike, I was just not prepared. I wasn't prepared financially. I wasn't prepared emotionally. I didn't even really know a lawyer. I'm like most people in America are today. They don't really know lawyers. They're intimidated by lawyers, and they're concerned about what it might cost when I go to talk to a lawyer.
So you weren't even at fault in the accident, and still you got sued, and still you had all these expenses?
That's absolutely correct. I'm like, I wasn't at fault. They gave the ticket to the other person, but I wound up getting sued. I mean, but those type things happen. They happen in America today. They happen every day. People aren't expecting those things. And as I began to look at it, I realized that the old 80-20 rule really came into play here, and that's that only about 20% of the people in the United States actually had access to a lawyer. What we do for people is not just those real serious, catastrophic type things. We're also talking about just everyday legal events, the things that, if you have children, then there's going to be some legal issues.
What kind of things, if I had a prepaid legal service policy, what kind of things would it cover?
Well, the first thing is the preventive law aspect of it, Mike, and that gives you the ability to pick up the telephone, call a lawyer, call a law firm, and we're talking about top quality lawyers, top quality law firms, and talk to them about anything of a legal nature. It doesn't matter what it is. Right now we're going through this subprime lending thing, and a lot of people are having problems out there right now with their mortgages. So if you had a prepaid membership and you're concerned about your mortgage, you're concerned about whether you're going to have a foreclosure, pick up the phone, call the lawyer, get some legal advice, get some legal help on that. Let's just say that you get a traffic ticket. Now, we can't fix tickets. We don't fix tickets. But, again, if you call the lawyer, they're going to give you some help on that. And many times they'll be able to keep those points off of your record, et cetera. We all enter into contracts. We enter into them all the time, and again, that's what has gotten some people in trouble right now with this mortgage industry thing.
You think it's the fact that all these legal documents, if you ever closed a house, you go in there and what you want to do is sign and get the keys to your new house. Do you think people really read all that stuff before they?
I know they don't, Mike. None of us do. It's like insurance policies that we have. We get them, but we don't read them. We put them away. We put them somewhere, and we hope it's going to take care of us. And then when something happens, then we want to go to a lawyer and get them to read it for us. But what we need to do is to do it at the time or before we enter into that contract, and that's what prepaid does. It gives people the ability to pick up the phone, call that lawyer, fax that over to them. You don't even have to drive over to their office. That's the nice thing about it. It's so convenient. You just fax it over, let them take a look at it for you and tell you what it really covers and what it really doesn't cover.
How about getting a will drawn up? Is this something that prepaid legal lawyers could do under this membership, a will?
It is, Mike, and there's no cost to do it other than the cost of your membership. And what we find is that 70 to 80% of the people, Mike, that we talk about, don't have something as simple and important as a will. We just put off doing it. We're concerned about, what lawyer should I go to? What lawyer does wills? Because, not all lawyers do wills. Well, as a prepaid member, you have access to the law firm, and you're going to be talking to lawyers that do estate planning, and they're going to do your will for you. We're not talking about a fill-in-the-blank will. We're talking about a complete will for yourself and your family, and there's no cost. In addition to that, you're going to get a power of attorney. You're going to get a health care directive done. You're going to get the living will. All of those things are covered under your membership. And, Mike, they can be updated every year at no cost.
Prepaid Legal Chief Operating Officer Randy Harp sat down with us to discuss how history and financial stability factor into services provided by his company.
We've enjoyed 35 years. Can't tell you that we've grown every year, but in the last 13 years, since 1993, we've grown the membership base, our membership revenues, and so Excited to be a New York Stock Exchange listed company. We've been on the NYSE since 99, on the American Stock Exchange before that. We have a proven business model that allows us to grow the company, continue to sell a life events legal plan, but also produce free cash flow.
The Chief Marketing Officer of Prepaid Legal Services Incorporated is Mark Brown. We had a chance to meet with Mark, and he shared with us what Prepaid Legal has done to strengthen the company and ensure its future viability.
We have, over the years, just tens of thousands of letters, success stories, testimonials, how the membership that these folks have from our company has changed their lives, sometimes at the most critical juncture in somebody's life, how it's just made their life better. And our founder's a real visionary. He doesn't just leave it up to chance. We want to make sure the member gets the best service humanly possible. What he did a few years ago was go out and secure an advisory council. Because we live in the world's most complicated society, things change every day. More laws are passed, social things change. We don't want to leave it up to chance what our service does. So he went out as just an added security, really, and secured what we call our advisory council, which is made up of some of the best legal minds in the country, former attorneys general, lawyers from the business community, highly respected lawyers, to look at what we do going forward, the trends, how things affect our members, and run these things past these great legal minds, because the bottom line is getting the best service for the membership, and that's what we believe this advisory council does.
We have to be always vigilant and always on guard to continue to upgrade the quality of service that the provider firms are supplying. I think that is a never-ending effort.
I think a lot of people, when they hear about prepaid legal, they think maybe it's too good to be true. They read articles in the Wall Street Journal saying lawyers are now charging $1,000 an hour, and they have a hard time believing that for not very much money a month they can have access to really good lawyers. Doesn't seem to make sense. There must be some sort of catch. But there really is no catch. You've got just an army of great lawyers out there who aren't totally driven by the bottom line. They're driven by a desire to solve problems for average middle-class people. So I think the attorneys general being involved helps show people that it's a legitimate operation. It gives credibility to the organization. And they know that we wouldn't be involved unless we believed in what Prepaid was doing and that it was a good company.
We do provide a sounding board to try out new ideas that officers in the company may have, and we react to them and make recommendations as to how those particular issues ought to be handled.
The revolutionary practice of joining customer service with the practice of law was not developed overnight, and it's something that is not taught in law school. But how do you persuade a lawyer to provide service, advice, or even lift a finger for a fee the average person can afford? It's not easy. It also takes time. Mike Turpin is a provider lawyer for Prepaid Legal Services Incorporated. I asked Mike and other lawyers in the prepaid legal system to help us understand how someone accesses the service, and more importantly, to answer the question of why they are willing to provide top-notch service to a person who may only pay as little as $26 a month.
The network of provider attorneys across North America are the best law firms available anytime, anywhere for anybody. I'm very proud of the network of provider attorneys that we've put together for Prepaid Legal. My own law firm, I believe it's the best law firm in the state of Oklahoma. And I think all the provider attorneys feel that way about their state and their provinces, that they're the best law firm in their state, in their province. They're quality-conscious, service-oriented law firms. They're user-friendly. They're law firms that have learned to call the member back, help the member with preventive law, help them stay out of trouble before they ever get into trouble. The idea of Prepaid Legal Services making our kinds of law firms, I think very unique and good law firms, available to all the people across this country at a very reasonable rate per month, is the best thing that's happened to the delivery of legal services, both criminal and civil, in the history of the justice system.
The thing I like most about being a provider attorney is helping people. When I became a lawyer, my ambition was to be in a field where I would help people. And prepaid legal services beats that tremendously. Interacting with people, helping people when people have a particular legal need that I can be a benefit for them. I really enjoy the opportunity to be able to make a difference in their life, to provide them the legal representation that they need.
I'm thankful for being associated with prepaid and being a prepaid lawyer because of the gratification that we get from being able to assist people who wouldn't otherwise have access to attorneys.
Having access to legal counsel for ordinary events is nice, but what if the unexpected occurs? A good legal plan, just like a good health plan or auto coverage, will not only provide access to services, but access to services at an emergency level when necessary.
Harland, I know there's another product that you're really proud of. It's called LegalShield. Tell me what that's all about.
We came up with a concept or an idea to give people access to lawyers 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, wherever they might be in emergency situation. Now, we're not talking about calling up and getting your will done at 3 o'clock in the morning. We can do that for you tomorrow. But if you're pulled over on the side of the road, and we know police officers, most of them, they're out there to help us and not to hurt us. But if we're out there being detained and we're being asked questions and maybe the possibility of being taken to jail, right then we'd like to be able to talk to a lawyer. So we came up with a service to where you can do exactly that. Anywhere you are, anytime, we have a 1-800 number that you can call and be put in touch with a lawyer in whatever state you're in at whatever time that you need that lawyer. And we just have so many success stories, how that has helped people by being able to talk to a lawyer at 3 o'clock in the morning. We just think that's one of the greatest benefits that we offer.
This particular time we were on our way out of town, going on a business trip, and no sooner than we got to the airport, got a phone call 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning, a hysterical teenager shouting that the security was following her out of the mall, and that they came up upon her, snatched her purse, took her purse, dumped it, and accused her of shoplifting. And she had nothing in her purse. She was hysterical and frantic, humiliated in front of everybody in the mall. So she calls me and she's yelling and hollering. I'm telling her to calm down. It's nothing I can do. Call your attorneys. And that she had her LegalShield in her pocket. And so at that time, we finally got her to call the attorneys. She called them. They calmed her down. They talked to the security at the mall, and they walked her to her car. And they were very apologetic.
I got a call one night about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. A young man, he was about 23, 24 years old. He'd been stopped by the police because he had neon running lights on his car. So I took the call and I ran down the hall, so I didn't wake up my wife. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. And he said, look, they've stopped me for neon running lights. They want to search my car. And I said to him, okay, have you been drinking? He said, no. I said, are there drugs in the car? He said, no. But he was very nervous, and as an attorney, the first thing you don't want to do is consent to a warrantless search, to a search without probable cause. So I said to him, okay, let me talk to the officer. So he hands the phone to the officer, and I said, officer, you've stopped this young man for neon running lights. He goes, yeah. I said, that's illegal? He said, where did you go to law school? You don't know that? I said, look, when I went to law school, they taught me about important things like contracts and murder. I said, now you tell me the probable cause for searching this car, for giving him a field sobriety test, for giving him the breathalyzer. And he said, look, I have the right to do this. I stopped him. I suspect it. I said, then good. Then you tell me how you're going to respond to the civil rights case we're going to file after the warrantless search. This is a violation of his constitutional rights. I said, now give me back the phone and let me instruct my client. So I got the kid on the phone. He was a young man. He was terrified. I said to him, look, I have already told the officer I'm not consenting to the search, but you have to be the one to tell him that you're not going to consent to the search, you're not going to take a field sobriety test, and you're not going to take the breathalyzer. At that point, the young man sounded kind of distracted, and I heard him say, thank you. And I said, what's going on? He said, the cop just gave me back my license. He's walking back to his squad car.
Identity theft is everywhere we turn. It's the fastest growing white-collar crime in America. On the news, the radio, in the papers, credit card companies have even made entertaining commercials about it. But for someone who's experienced it, it's not a laughing matter. Chances are you've been affected by identity theft, or you know someone who has. What the commercials and ads don't tell us is how identity theft is not only about credit card numbers and online shopping. That's only the tip of the iceberg.
One of the biggest problems today for consumers across North America is the concept that's hard to understand. It's a crime called identity theft, where someone steals your identity. And it's hard to understand until you become a victim of it, and then you understand that your life is literally turned upside down. Prepaid Legal offers a very unique coverage. And speaking as a former Attorney General, I know that Prepaid Legal can do for its members what the Attorney Generals of America would like to do, but cannot do because they don't have the staff to help these individuals one by one by one by one. And that's where the coverage that Prepaid Legal offers in identity theft is unique and special, and I think worth having.
The fact is, we're all at risk. It's easy to steal your personal information. The only thing you can do is take action to reduce your risk and prepare for the possibilities. The same company that pioneered the legal service plan in the United States also makes available to the public the Identity Theft Shield. The reality is, life's not fair. Not everyone is honest, and bad things happen. But when they do, don't face them alone. Whether it's a simple conflict with an auto repair, a faulty product, or helping you deal with the tragedy of identity theft. With a legal service plan and identity theft coverage, you'll have power, confidence, and peace of mind. Access to the system is the key. That's why wealthy people are willing to pay a lot of money to have it. Justice for all can and should be a reality for all. Prepaid Legal Services Life Events Legal Plan can help that happen at a price you can afford for you and your family.